welcome to Rotted Review of the Day, and welcome to the second part of a double feature of Christmas horror movie reviews. This time, it's the 2010 movie from Amsterdam, Sint, or Saint. Goes by either one. Now, this movie, I thought, had a lot of good qualities to it, and some not quite so good. It kind of wound up in a little bit of a middle-of-the-road kind of overall view experience, but before I get into the real review of this, I do have to address a little bit of an elephant in the room with this one. Now, this movie has to do with the concept of St. Nicholas as an evil zombie bishop that comes every time the December 5th holiday, which that's kind of their Christmas over there is December 5th. Every time the December 5th Christmas holiday coincides with the full moon, then he comes and is basically a murderous killer of bad boys and girls and so on and so forth. Pretty much rampages across Amsterdam and kills hundreds of people every time this happens. The elephant in the room I'm referring to is in the Netherlands. In their lore, with Santa Claus and St. Nicholas and so on and so forth, there is also an additional character that they have in their culture known as Black Pete. And if you've never seen Black Pete before, he is celebrated typically with white people putting on blackface makeup, afro wigs, and red lipstick. They maintain that this is not a racially charged thing. This is simply just the character that was born from a story that was written in the mid-1800s in their country and has nothing to do with Al Jolson and the blackface of America and, taking over from the racially charged, era there. And in the interest of fairness and fence sitting, and also acknowledging both my racial privilege as a white man and cultural privilege as an American, I am basically not putting my quarter into this moral jukebox, and all I'm doing is saying that there is a fairly prevalent presence of the Black Pete character in this movie. So if the concept of white people wearing blackface in their culture offends you, then please be aware that it is very prevalent in this movie. So moving forward, this movie I found to be the entire storyline of people basically surviving this onslaught from St. Nicholas, I thought was done reasonably well. It really wasn't a whole lot to fully capture my attention for the entire hour-and-a-half long runtime, but there is one element of this movie that makes it, in my opinion, worth watching, and that is the brutality. This movie has many kills in it. They are plentiful, they are vicious, they are well done, they are creative, and they are fun. So, if you are wanting a Christmas horror movie that's just a slash 'em up where you can turn your brain off and enjoy some truly creative kills, then I think that this is absolutely one for you. But if you're wanting something kind of cerebral, if you're wanting something that goes beyond to just vapidly slasher-ish entertaining, it might be worth a pass, because it doesn't really elevate itself beyond that. I'm going to go ahead and throw up all the scores here. As always, 4 different categories, each one worth up to 25 points for a total possible score of 100 points. And for this movie, I thought that the plot and the acting were basically decent enough. This had a very polished feel to it, almost a mainstream motion picture kind of feel to it, which has been a real sigh of relief for me as I've been kind of going through some of the lesser known bottom of the barrel kind of titles during this advent calendar of horror movies here. So to see something that is fairly well polished and good production value is like, whew, finally. That element of it really did work, but that kind of lends itself more in the technical category, along with the quality of special effects. There were some cheesy moments. This did have Santa riding a horse on rooftops in a sequence that was, I'm just going to go ahead and say laughably bad, but in such a good way, if that makes any sense whatsoever. I was watching it mystified at the quality of the effect and, not in a good way, but I was also having a lot of fun, obviously in a good way, just watching it. I was just full of glee watching him run across rooftops and having the police chase him down on the ground. It was like St. Nicholas meets Batman Begins. It was fantastic. So there was a lot of fun elements of this movie, and I think that really shone through, and that really affected the intention score. So then the question becomes, would I recommend this movie? And that puts me in a tricky position. It really does, because I have... There's a part of me that wants to, but the part of me that wants to also has to resolve itself with the notion of being able to say, the elements of this movie that I would want to recommend, you would have to be able to get beyond the racial issue of the Black Pete character and the celebration of the Black Pete character in the movie to get to that point. And I can't speak to that. That's not something that I can possibly refer to. However you feel about this situation, this racial situation within this movie, I can't be the one to say, if you can get past this, then here you go. It's not something that I feel comfortable putting out in front of people. That shouldn't be the onus of the situation on their shoulders, on your shoulders, the viewers. So I'm just going to do, what I think is best and abstain from a recommendation. I've given my opinion on the rest of the movie. I've given my score, and I'm going to refrain from giving any sort of recommendation for this movie, either for or against. Basically, I think that it would just be up to the viewer to decide whether or not it would be something that they can handle on an overall level, and if not, it's perfectly understandable. This is a difficult topic. This is a difficult situation, and I have had a difficult time resolving a lot of this review in my head. This is coming, I'm recording this at 8:30 at night, which is way later than I typically record my reviews, just because I've been kind of churning on this one, on how to approach it. Because, like I said, it's not something that I can possibly ever understand. That's the concept of the situation I'm coming from with my privilege, is as much as I can empathize and sympathize, I cannot understand, which means I cannot speak to this, which means I will not give any recommendation for this movie. But beyond that, that is my review of this film. That is my score of this film, and that is my review of 2010's Sint. I really thank you for joining me here today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. If you like this video, please click like and subscribe. And if you want to support me further, my Patreon and my merchandise storefront links are below. Remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.